Welcome to Ed's Not Dead. I'm Robbie Dodd. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. C.H. Siddons.
Good morning.
Good morning. And, of course, Mr. Peter Crable.
Howdy.
All right, you can find me at RW Dodd on Twitter. I'm the only one of the three of us that has 1,000 followers. True?
Well, congratulations.
Big
deal.
I know. And we were
Most of your followers are Russian bots.
We were supposed to have a guest tonight that had 28,000 followers.
That is a lot of followers.
I can't figure out how.
At the current rate I'm going, it would take me
37 years.
No, 746 years. I calculated.
What are you at now?
I don't know, 120 maybe.
Okay, you're increasing.
Dude,
Ed's Not Dead. What's
impressive?
At Ed's Not Dead PC is at 500 followers, right, Mr. Siddons?
At least.
All right, and you can reach Casey at CH Siddons and at Peter Crable. It's good to be back, folks, boys. It's good to see you.
It's great to be back.
Very good.
Yeah, our new show format, which people seem to like with our interviews and our shows.
Which Robbie totally understands how it works.
Can you imagine that people are asking him during his day-to-day talking with people, and they're like, how's the show going? And he's like, oh, it's going great. We have a new format. What's the format like?
We recorded some stuff.
Yeah.
I just know that we record
release stuff.
Okay, hold on. We record a lot of segments, and I don't really. It's very non-linear now.
Yes.
We used to do like a show in one recording,
Yeah.
and now Crable takes it home and does all kinds of funny stuff.
Well, the behind the scenes is we used to do it twice a month,
That's right.
This is true,
and now we only do it once a month.
which has improved my quality of life.
I agree.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just one big session.
All right. So
as they say.
Mr. Krabs is our outcomes guy, and he likes to follow how many downloads we're getting.
Yes.
And then we've also gotten some good show feedback lately.
Yeah, great feedback.
But first, the show tonight, since I don't really know what the format of the show is, I think we are going to have a nice discussion about how badly shafted millennials have gotten over the last 10 years.
Yes, the lost generation of lost wealth that will never be recovered.
Yep. So we're going to talk about that, which doesn't have a lot to do with education, but we'll find some education.
There's some connections, I'm sure.
There's some connections. And then what else do we have, Mr. Krabs?
Casey is going to lead us through a nice episode of Dear Betsy.
Oh, we're bringing it back. Do you hear the bears?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't.
DB is back.
We got a lot to. It's been a while, so we got a lot to talk about.
We got a lot to cover
with Miss Betsy. And then we might do a quiz on mental health awareness since it's Mental Health Awareness Month.
It's a short one. Okay.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. And of course, you can find our teacher tips that we'll be doing a new segment of teacher tips as well.
Yeah.
And we have an interview, which we haven't really figured out yet. So,
but it's going to be
stay tuned.
Great.
It's going to be awesome.
I have an announcement.
You do?
Yes.
Okay,
in a couple days, which will be the day that this is released.
Yeah.
We have a big birthday.
Oh, Sally O'Malley.
Look at you.
The big 4-0.
Yeah. October
40.
What's Monday? The 22nd.
22nd. Very good.
He's 60. What are you, 62?
62.
There
you go. I was waiting for that.
I have new dentures.
Well, it'll be a big day for Dr. Bob.
It will be a big day.
Yeah.
It is a big day. The big 5-0.
That's right.
Have you noticed this year that there are
more people turning 50 than ever before?
The Gen X is a small generation.
Okay.
And I now have Casey on Sunday mornings texting me articles on the height of grunge music. So that
you liked it.
I did like it, but that shows that I'm 50 because now people are looking back on grunge from 25 years ago.
It's like classic rock now.
Yep. And then the White Album is 50 years old, the Beatles' seminal album.
It's amazing.
Yep. And so there's been lots of retrospectives on 1968 this year on the death of Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King. And so those all happened the year I was born. So I was bound to turn out a little bit off.
Crooked.
The thing that I like to think about is the distance between the White Album and now is the same distance as World War I and the White Album.
Ooh. Look at Mr. Craig.
That's some research on that one.
I
just thought of it in my head.
That's pretty good. World War I.
Yeah.
From the beginning of World War
1918.
1918. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, and you're kind of like in the... It's like pre-Big Band. It's really like
Yeah.
I don't want to say the dawn of recorded music, but really,
It was.
I mean, there was not a lot in terms
That's
of...
definitely pre-big band because my dad is 90, and I would say that big band was his era.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all he lived for in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
That was the old days of the wax cylinder.
I don't even know. What did you have in the 20s?
That's a great question.
What was the music in the 20s?
The late teens and early 20s? I don't
Flappers.
Don't know.
know. I don't even know what that is.
My dad refers to, when he talks about big band music, he talks about Dixieland quite a bit. Which was, I guess, from New Orleans, correct?
Yeah.
Which would be jazz, big band kind of music.
Yeah, like clarinet.
Correct. Yeah. Benny Goodman.
Yeah. It wasn't big band per se. It was smaller big band, if you will. Yeah, like 4 pieces, 5 pieces, stuff like that.
All right. Well, good to know.
Yeah,
Mr. Krabs just framed the 20th century for us.
Great tangent.
Okay, that was good. All right, so show feedback. Let's jump in. You want me to go first?
Yes.
All right, so friend of the show, Ryan Harrigan, emailed us about our discussion on passion, which seemed to elicit a range of responses out there.
Yeah.
In the
Some passion.
Are you yawning?
Sorry.
What is wrong with you? Your eyes just got totally glazed over.
When you started talking, I just started.
Did you see that, Mr.
I did.
Craig?
I did.
Bored.
It's concerning.
That was so weird.
I need a nap.
Anyway, all right. So Ryan says, hey guys, I enjoyed the show this week. Some thoughts on the passion conversation. My philosophy on education is that everything starts with relationships. I'm ultra competitive. Some of my passion for teaching came from wanting my scores to be better than everyone in the school.
That's one way to do it.
There you go, Ryan. In schools with similar demographics and then the whole county. I took pride in proving kid doubters wrong. Ooh, I like that. Especially with specific kids that I was told don't belong in algebra in 8th grade or whatever class. I had so much trouble with teachers that didn't care about their scores. It reflects on how good I am and how passionate I am about that. I had to grade exams as soon as they were done, taking them so that I knew how we did, not just the kid, but the whole process that we put in place to help kids. And finally, if you see teaching as a 9-to-5 job, you are not passionate.
That's a tough statement.
Ryan signs off by saying, "My 2 cents." Thanks, Ryan. Well, first of all, Ryan, thanks for the
good 2 cents.
Thanks for the feedback. Thanks for the listen to Ed's Not Dead. What do you guys think? Pretty good?
Yeah, and and I think in retrospect, and some of the stuff you wrote, but just in all of it, I'm like, well, okay, I probably undersold the element of passion, but I really wanted to be contrarian during that segment.
It's kind of the basis of our show.
Yeah.
The thing I like about what Ryan Harrigan said is most everything that he talked about, the locus of control as a teacher was right there with him.
Yes.
In other words, it was all about what he was responsible for how kids did.
Yeah,
he was responsible for their learning,
Yeah.
for their outcomes. And so, if you have that sense of responsibility, you've got to have some passion.
So, as a leader of a department, for example, if you are passionate,
Yes.
if you are in the trenches with them, and you are showing the type of success that you can have if you put in the right amount of work and the effective amount of work, I think it lets other people see that and do the same thing, or at least know that it's possible.
I still stand by my statement that telling first-year teachers that they need to be passionate is not helpful.
I think it's.
I think you develop passion.
I think it sets barriers up.
Right. Mm-hmm. I want more. I want a bigger tent.
If
I want to bring more people into the
if we tell
tent.
people that you need to not consider it, don't expect to get out at 5:00. If we tell them, you should expect to grade things at home every single day, you're probably going to push people out of there.
Just lie to them, and then when you get them in the door, then you give them the work.
Right, that's right.
That's totally fine.
All right.
All starry-eyed.
What else you got? Thank you, Ryan, for tuning into Ed's Not Dead. Keep the feedback coming.
Keep emailing us.
Yeah, keep emailing us.
Casey, do you have a couple?
Yeah. Okay, are you okay?
Do you specifically remember what I said?
I do.
Casey,
I don't have any other
pull up the comments on Twitter.
Dear Lord.
I said you always seem to be so surprised
Fucking millennials.
by when we asked you for comments. He was.
We said that we were each going to
heard
do a
that.
piece of show feedback.
I didn't get any feedback.
I went first. Oh, okay, but then why didn't you say that?
I just thought you were talking about the feedback that both of you guys had.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Mr. Krabs, go ahead.
Well, we did.
We're killing the show today.
We did get a piece of feedback, and I don't know who it's from on iTunes, as we continue to get more and more 5-star reviews. Anyhow, this person, I assume it's a parent, said that with November coming up, and November typically being parent-teacher conferences, that we should do a piece on what to expect, on what parents should expect from parent-teacher conferences, which I thought was a pretty stellar idea. So I think for teacher tips tonight,
yes,
we are going to be exploring that. I don't know if it's a teacher tip, but I think it's good if teachers know what parents want to hear.
That's
so that
right.
All the customers are happy.
Was that feedback from Cynthia Simonson online?
No, that was on iTunes. That was just a comment that somebody left on iTunes in the last couple of weeks. I just happened to check. I was like, I wonder how many reviews we have, and there was a new comment, and that was
cool.
Yeah, that was it.
Very, very good. Okay.
So I did find feedback.
Okay, good. All right. And now
I apologize for not having
Casey, it's okay.
myself together.
You just have one job.
So
to book guests.
You know
and
what?
To do feedback. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, Lynn Harris.
Oh, Lynn Harris, friend of the show.
Friend of the pod.
Yep.
Crable came up with this great poem. It said, "Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so is Ed's not dead."
That was good.
And so he tweeted that out.
Right.
And she didn't like the tweet. She said it was cringeworthy. The poetry was cringeworthy.
She was a little cold about that.
It was. But she said that our podcast is a great, thought-provoking listen if you care about education, and that she considers it a must listen,
Hey.
which is awesome.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Appreciate
it.
Thank you, Lynn Harris.
Thank you, Lynn.
Lynn Harris, who is a devoted, tireless advocate of public education, and truly lives every day the Ed's Not Dead, because she is a major supporter of what teachers, schools, principals do. So thank you, Lynn. All right. And thanks for Cynthia Simon's feedback. Cynthia, we really actually don't know what you said, but it's in the show notes.
No, it's, Cynthia tweeted us.
Yeah.
What did she say?
Well,
Okay,
after one of our... Well, you just went ahead and did it.
Okay, go
After
ahead.
one of our discussions... I don't know if it was after one of our discussions, but I talked about calling as many parents as you could at the beginning of the year.
Right.
Yes.
And she tweeted us and said, "A teacher called me this week in 14 years, and she had 4 kids go through the system with 150 teachers. First time a call simply to say, quote, 'I just wanted to let you know I like having your child in class.'" And she said, "What an amazing moment for me and my child."
Very nice.
That's awesome.
Yep, that's good stuff.
So,
all right, well, that's a great strategy, and you were you did that strategy all the time as a teacher,
and it takes a lot of time, but
Yeah.
it pays out in dividends. I have parents that I run into now that still remember me because of that, I think.
I remember you doing it. All right, so keep listening to the show. Spread the word about Ed's Not Dead. Thanks, folks, for the feedback. Send it in to us via Twitter, email. We'll take it any way we can get it. We'll read it online, and make sure you're telling people about the show. All right, so for all our millennial listeners out there, Mr. Siddons, are you ready?
I'm so excited. This is probably a really great article about how millennials are going to take over the world and doing great things, right? And with avocado toast.
They may do that, but they're going to not. They're going to have empty pockets when they do it.
Well, you can't take it with you, can you?
Right, you cannot. So here we go. Hillary Hoffower. Hillary.
Who was it?
Hillary Hoffower.
Hoffower.
Okay, I had a little moment there. Okay, say it for me, Mr. Graves.
I don't know. Hoffower.
Okay, I think Hoffower is better than my Hoffower.
Hoffer.
She has written an article titled "The Lost Generation of Millennials Born in the 1980s May Never Be as Rich as Their Parents." So let me read you a little excerpt from her article here. As of 2016, people born in this decade in the 80s had wealth levels 34% below where they would most likely have been if the financial crisis hadn't occurred. She's referring to the 2008 worldwide financial meltdown.
Right.
Those born in the 1970s had wealth levels 18% under where they would have been. And the wealth levels of people born in the 1960s, that would be me, were 11%. So you can see, Mr. Siddons, you're 34% born in the 80s, below where you should be compared to my 11%. So basically, the Great Recession of the early 2000s inflicted, in her words, deep and widespread losses of income and wealth on the typical American family. So I'm just
kind of a problem.
Yeah, it is kind of a problem. So you're a millennial, Mr. Crable, you live somewhere between Gen X and millennialhood. So you probably felt this a little bit too. We all felt the '08 recession, but how do you think that has played out in your generation? And do you see residual damage from it, or do you see your generation having bounced back and finding ways to compensate?
I think millennials get a bad rap for a lot of things, and the pundits generalize what they think they know about millennials. But from what I've read, there's a lot of people that will say that folks who are millennials, since they grew up in the Great Recession or came to an adulthood in the Great Recession, are actually pretty frugal overall with their money and are much more planned.
No doubt about that. Than my generation.
Well, than a lot of generations that came before us. Yeah. And a lot of that came from the Great Recession, but I think it came from maybe lessons from the parents who maybe didn't have a lot of money or are teaching their kids how to use money better. I don't know. But I think in spite of this bad news, there are some connections to the teaching world in that I wonder if it will prevent more people from entering the teaching force, or what does that look like for how it impacts the teaching force over time. And I pulled up an article that we can talk about after Crable regrets ever me calling him a millennial.
No, and I put this article out there. I thought it was interesting, but as I told you guys before the show, I was like, I didn't really have any questions or like specific things to talk about. But I think the one thing that kind of came to mind.
Such great support for our topic. It's a good article.
I want to throw a cog in the wheel.
It is a good article, but I was kind of like, all right, how does this relate to Ed's Not Dead? But I think as I thought about it, I thought, well, does it matter? And so I think schools have kind of always played the role of one of the selling points of school has been access to upward and social mobility. And I still think that is the case. However, I wonder if because of this, that will start to change at all. Because I know, like during my parents' generation, I'm not sure about you, Robbie, during your generation, I feel like there was some sort of, whether it was self-inflicted or societal pressure to do better than your parents. And that everything that your parents had done, they sacrificed for you. But now I think we're kind of looking at an age where, I don't want to say like the 80s was the height of like capitalism and excesses and blah, blah, blah. But, maybe it did reach an apex or a zenith. And maybe now moving forward, instead of schools being the birthplace of upward social mobility solely for wealth gain, maybe it's more can look back to like knowledge. I don't want to say for knowledge sake, but maybe a little bit more well-rounded and a little bit less focused on material gain and salaries and positions. And I know that's at least partially true because one of the hallmarks of millennials is kind of like switching jobs frequently and looking for satisfaction in different places and kind of going along that route. So,
and I think if you can be successful in teaching, you will find satisfaction in the particular career.
Yeah.
Let me just say one other thing. I wonder, to your point, Mr. Krabs, whether it's always been disputed, and I think when we had Zaretta Hammond on, we talked about whether education is the great equalizer or not. Some data I think shows that it can be, and is a source of upward mobility. But then I think some data shows that it's not. I just worry now with all the topics that we've covered, from resegregation to the lack of political will to try to create more equity in schools, that it will be hard for education to be an equalizer when the social structure of the country is so stratified and wealth inequality is increased.
And millennials have come of age in that particular environment.
Exactly.
And I think it's formed a lot of our political and social views as a block. And I pulled up this article that I thought would bring up an interesting thought or an interesting conversation for us. And there was a 2011 Pew Research Center survey revealed trends in millennials' career perception of the Of the 808 18 to 34-year-olds surveyed, only 30% view their current job as a career. In light of these findings, the education world must adapt to the career habits of millennial teachers, which we've talked about, and how we view the actual career. And it talks about some shifts, and I'll list them here. In 2008, the most common teacher was a first-year teacher. In 1987, the most common teacher had 15 years of experience. Today, more than 200,000 new teachers begin each year. 25 years ago, 65,000 new teachers began each year. Of the new teachers entering the workforce, 65% are recent college graduates. So it's just an interesting segue in terms of, obviously, the financial aspect of millennials' lives are troubling. They'll probably have to work a lot longer, but there is some security in the teaching force if we can get people to come, feel empowered, and actually stay.
But I wonder if millennials, when they think of the 2008 crash, I'll ask you. I mean, if I'm a millennial, which I'm not exactly going to trust that an entitlement, a pension is going to be there waiting for me when I experience getting out of college and watching the whole global financial system virtually melt down.
I mean, I think there's a healthy dose of cynicism involved in your early career, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, and so as you're talking, so maybe the connection here is, all right, so let's say millennials' worldview is shaped by coming of age as a professional during this epic meltdown where lots of bad stuff happened. Now, one way, millennials in general at that time, 2008, didn't have like all this accumulated wealth that like melted away.
Right.
But they were affected in other ways. But as you were talking about teachers...
By the way, I was 40. I did.
Yeah.
Sorry
about that.
Since we're counting in the decades of the eights.
Yeah.
So 2008 was not a great time for me.
So if we know that millennials, look for satisfaction in different places, in different ways, and how does teaching and education in general reflect that? How are we adapting our structures? How are we adapting what we ask teachers so that you can kind of keep them engaged and keep them interested, because they're going to get bored, and you don't want to, there's nothing worse than investing a couple of years and losing somebody to something else. They're like, I'm going to try something else.
Oh, well, it happened with us when we worked together.
Big time, yeah.
In the age of data, where we have data at our fingertips, if they see a situation that continuously shows lack of performance or lack of results, I would imagine they would become disengaged.
Yeah.
I also wonder what millennials think of unions and what their take is on organized labor and the intersection of organized labor with teaching as a profession. I've always been curious. I mean, I have a sense of what older generations think of that, but I wonder if millennials see that as something that helps them or would attract them to education or push them away. I don't know. Because, I mean, nationally, we know that organized labor has been in decline for a couple of decades now.
Yeah.
Certainly, in the public sectors, it's starting to with our Supreme Court case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Janus.
That was another one of
I thought it was a soft J.
Janus. Okay.
I mean, my guess would be they have a dimmer view, and this is a total
another cynical
conjecture.
kind of thing, maybe a little bit.
Well, just because
I'd say more ambivalence.
Yeah, and like in not in a confrontational way, but sort of like, I don't know, like maybe their parents weren't in unions and they didn't grow up around unions, and so just, I don't know, what do unions do? And just kind of show me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if it was such a hot button issue, then maybe it would make its way into the electorate, and you'd see more politicians elected who are like staunchly pro-union.
Right.
And not to say that there isn't intersection between unions and politics and all that, but I just wonder, as you said, nationwide, as it's kind of unions have been a little bit on the decline.
Right.
If that's millennials are kind of like, let's just see what happens.
Well, the thing that we do know about millennials, I think, I totally just generalized it. I don't know.
I mean, we're doing a lot of generalizations.
What we do know about all of them.
But what you said, it's one of the strengths of millennials.
They like small dogs.
When you said, show me, you've got to show millennials the value in something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the strengths of the generation, I think, is they need to know the why.
Yep.
They read the fine print. They do their homework. They're great, I think, filters of information. Way better than my latchkey generation, the disaffected Generation X.
The Apple terms of service, Generation X.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, well, I guess we will follow this 10 years from now.
We'll see where we are.
I'll be 60. You guys will be in the...
During the next recession.
Yep, yeah. That's coming.
It's on its way.
Yeah, I'm going to have
I think it's coming next year.
It'll happen at some point.
I'm going to have all bonds by that point.
Yeah, well, we'll be safe.
I'm
Don't
gonna have
worry.
gold. I'm gonna have gold and silver.
Gold. I hear this
Come
on
on,
the
man.
conservative talk radio shows.
Yeah.
Buy gold and
Buy
silver.
gold. I've been investing in platinum,
Very nice.
big platinum records.
I'm gonna invest in rubber next.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
Okay.
good.
just go old school.
That is really good.
All right, we're going to do Dear Betsy when we come back. Welcome back to episode 3, season 2. I like saying that. Of Ed's Not Dead. I'm here with my co-hosts again, Mr. Krabs and Mr. Siddons.
Yep. Good morning.
All right, so it is time to bring back a fan favorite of the show.
It's been too long.
It has been too long. It is an episode that I think we created right out of the gate, a segment we created
it
right out of
was.
the gate, which is Dear Betsy.
Cue the Bears.
Dear Betsy. And it has usually been led by Mr. Siddons. He has a special affinity or
I finally got my stuff together tonight.
affection. In season 2 of Ed's Not Dead, just for our audience, we've been much less political because we've just kind of grown cynical and we don't talk politics as much. But Betsy always has some good educational nuggets for us. So
This isn't political.
Without further ado, okay,
You know,
good.
we're talking policy.
We're talking
Education policy
ed policy.
that affects teachers and students.
Okay, well, go.
Across the board.
What do we have?
So
in
I have
in the
3
world of
articles that
Dear Betsy?
I wanted to bring up to you all and see what your thoughts are, and we'll figure out what you want to talk about first. The first one is from CNN: Judge unblocks Obama rule on student debt relief after delays by DeVos. Some alliteration there. An Obama-era rule designed to help students cheated by for-profit colleges get relief on their education debt finally took effect Tuesday after efforts by the Trump administration to block it. How do you feel? Feeling good about that first one?
Well, the main connection I have for it was one of our first segments in our first season.
Yeah,
of
so
Ed-
I think
of
we
Ed's
talked
Not
about
Dead.
it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we talked
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, because that was one of the first things that Secretary DeVos did right out of the gate, which was try to block that policy.
Because Obama wrote it on the way out.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that it's been blocked all the way up until this point, and now a judge has said
Pay those students.
pay those kids
Pay 'em
that
back.
got ripped off.
Yes, completely.
And you know, and the problem, because I can hear people being like, well, let's say they declare bankruptcy,
Right.
You know, bankruptcy protects you from essentially your creditors, which in this case is essentially students, but that's kind of the danger of straight up for profit mixing with education is like, well, it's a public good in some sense. I
Right.
don't know how much, but you can't just treat it like a straight up corporation that's
Right.
just selling widgets.
It's pretty interesting that nearly half the states, plus the District of Columbia, and attorneys general from 18 states and D.C. sued DeVos last year over her decision to block the rule, now known as the Bar Defense to Repayment Act. So it seems to me that almost half the country, as far as states, felt like that this was something that needed to be done.
yeah,
Absolutely.
for good reason.
Yep.
Anyway.
So it is a lesson too that sometimes the states have to remind the Fed what's best for them. Right.
All right, next. Your taxpayer dollars at work, people.
Okay.
Betsy DeVos's Dear Betsy's security detail projected to cost up to $7.7 million during the next year. The Marshal Service said the final cost of protection for DeVos in fiscal 2018 was $6.79 million. That's more than the $6.54 million officials estimated last year for the as the maximum for fiscal 2018, which the Education Department at that time deemed a, quote, high water mark that the agency didn't plan to exceed. An agreement between the Ed Department and the Marshal Service governing DeVos as protective detail was just renewed for fiscal 2019 and began on Monday.
Why can't Eric Prince?
Blackwater.
Why can't he just give her a,
She
a
now
detail?
she now pays for the marshals to travel on her own private plane, and she foots the bill.
Oh, does she?
Yeah,
Oh.
I just saw that.
Oh, okay.
I have a hard time getting too upset about somebody.
I don't know. I don't
mean,
know how much security details cost.
Yeah.
So what was the dude? The EPA guy, Scott
Pruitt.
Yeah, his part of his was excessive cost, but I don't remember the number.
and the soundproof room.
Yeah,
Well,
associated with that.
The key for this one is DeVos's security details provided around the clock by the Marshals Service, which is highly unusual. The past 4 education secretaries have been protected by the Ed Department's own small security force, not related to the Secret Service.
Interesting.
Yes. And sometimes, often, it would be retired Secret Service agents who are
Interesting.
working in that small security force.
Yeah. Huh.
So she's very afraid of the public school.
It's a lot of money either way.
Okay, now she's not afraid.
She's afraid of public school students.
That is not it. Most of the country.
She wrote a blog about it, Robbie. Don't you know that?
She did. She's afraid of those people that work for the system.
There is no system.
There is no system.
Right.
Anywho, so that was another one.
We need our government officials to be safe.
We do need, of course we do. Yes. Absolutely. Anyway, last one, but certainly not least, is my favorite.
Least.
Betsy DeVos tells students not to be mean on Twitter. And a student responded in kind. What about your boss?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Whose name will go unmentioned. But, you know.
I mean, he is the president. You can name him. I think President Trump
I'll
is
let
your
you.
boss.
I'll let you.
I'll
let you.
His name shall remain
nameless.
Okay, so go ahead.
So anyway,
so what about
at a recent town hall in the Hall National Constitution Center, DeVos warned a crowd of kids ranging from elementary to college age students not to, quote, be nasty when messaging on Twitter. DeVos was there to, quote, talk about the First Amendment as part of the center's annual Constitution Day, commemorating the 231st anniversary of the signing of the U.S. Constitution. Quote, it is easy to be nasty hiding behind screens and Twitter handles, she said. It's not so easy face to face.
That is true. It's true.
It is true. It is true.
In a vacuum, what you
Okay.
said is totally
Okay.
true.
You're right.
So
You're right.
everybody should be nicer on Twitter.
Yes, we should be nicer on Twitter.
Do you think Twitter has made the political divisiveness in the country worse?
I think Facebook has done that. And
But not Twitter?
I think Twitter has participated in it, but Facebook is something that more people are involved in and has caused people to be you kind of go into your little bubble.
Facebook?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the internet is going to be the downfall of America.
Wow.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine about it.
Jeez.
Remember those?
that is really dark.
It's going to destroy humankind.
I think Facebook's going to be the downfall of democracy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Robbie, thoughts?
What do you think?
You can
Be additive, not
You
repetitive.
can bring it back to the topic at hand.
I was just thinking about which of the social media platforms is the most onerous, and I think Twitter takes the cake.
Yeah, people. I don't know. He seems to think that people don't say terrible things.
No.
on
I
Twitter.
totally do. I'm just saying that Facebook is
Maybe
there's
more of like
it's more
a closed circle.
comprehensive. It's more comprehensive about telling longer stories and being
Okay,
going.
but
But
there's a phrase called a Twitter war. There's
Yes.
nothing called. There's no
Yes.
Facebook war.
Twitter war just sounds better.
No, people have Twitter wars. They can repeatedly.
Yes.
I mean, you if you look at online publications, a lot of what they'll show in certain articles are screenshots
Sure.
of Twitter exchanges.
Where
I mean,
do most
they're-
people get their news?
Twitter.
Where-
Twitter.
No, Facebook.
Oh, really?
A large amount, a significant amount of people get their news from Facebook.
I think a lot of people follow their feed on
More
Twitter.
people are on Facebook than
I
Twitter.
believe that.
First of all,
I believe that.
Second of all, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a sizable percentage of people that get their news solely from Facebook.
I believe it.
And then your friend
Hence
shares
the
it.
downfall of society.
Correct.
There
Correct.
you go.
Yep.
My point stands.
But we haven't come to a conclusion about which is the most
Onerous. Well, that's a debate for another show, I think.
I think I'm right. That I like Twitter, but I've seen you get a little bit spicy on Twitter, Mr. Sids.
I've taken a step back.
I will say, in my own
much.
experience, I've seen people go more in depth, and these aren't like important people; they're just whoever on Twitter, or on Facebook. There's more nasty back and forth that I've seen on Facebook than on Twitter. But I understand.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe I just don't follow the right people on Twitter, or I'm not sure.
Okay.
Maybe my network on Facebook branches out to somewhere it doesn't on Twitter.
So, with over 1 billion users worldwide, Facebook tends to appeal to adults with 40% of its users over the age of 35. Twitter has...
it's the geezer platform.
It's the geezers. It's the Generation X and Boomers.
Okay. Yeah,
Twitter has over 271 million active users.
Oh, wow. That's like not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Crazy.
Not even close.
Yeah, I mean, you'll find a lot of people that don't have Twitter accounts still. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
my dad says to me, "I don't know how to use Twitter."
Will you tell your dad to get an icon for Twitter?
He doesn't. Oh, he doesn't know how to use it.
I want Jim to have not just an icon, but like I'm envisioning a comic book version of himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where you take a picture and like
yeah.
it's turned into a comic book character.
Yeah.
That's what I want for your dad.
Can
we make that happen?
I like how Jim will Casey will post something on Twitter.
It just happened the other day. He just retweeted it.
I know he did. It was a little late. He's a little late. Though.
A little late.
He had a little sleep at the switch. It takes him a while to get to it.
It does.
Oh, what's he do?
He just
retweets it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
He's only done Twitter like twice.
I'd like to see him make fun of his son on Twitter. that would be so good.
Troll me?
Casey's
He'd
head
like to troll
would
you.
explode.
All right. So is that anything else for Dear Betsy?
I can't. I'm done.
You're done?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
It was a good run back on Dear Betsy.
Yeah, what would you say would
First
be
one of the
the
season.
most important? So there's a lot of stuff in the news lately about a lot of things that we won't get into about certain people.
Stuff about things,
right?
Yeah.
If you search for Betsy DeVos, all her news is kind of getting pushed below the fold.
Yeah,
It
that's
has.
true.
So we got to bring it back.
Yeah, I like
we got to
that.
bring it up above the fold.
We got to
if you
bring
will.
ed policy back where it belongs.
on the front page
That's right.
of the section D.
That's what we're doing.
Well, I do think it's worth noting that ed policy and ed in general, we may need to. I think we're going to have to confront this. Has seemed to hadn't been a lot of oomph out there lately in the last 6 months or so.
No.
We're in a down
It's-
cycle. There's
I think
not.
that's
a,
not
purposeful.
in the-
I think it's purposeful.
Purposeful?
I do.
I think it's
purposeful because if you think about it, the goal of the Education Department currently under Betsy DeVos is to return the power to states. Right? So, therefore, the news would be disparate. It would be state by state, maybe, and in that sense, we're not going to find out a lot about the federal policy because they're trying to end them or diminish them.
Do less.
Do less.
Make news by not doing something.
Well, they're
Correct. It's not
Let's-
really news.
we're not going to make news because we don't want news.
Not going to put forward big policies.
Correct.
They're definitely doing less. I do think it's interesting that the state that we live in, Maryland, is going to discontinue giving the park.
Yeah.
And at some point on the show, I think we need to talk about the swan song of Common Core.
Wow.
Oh, jeez. Already?
And the park movement. I think we're there. I think we're almost there.
So we're going to be the I'm going to sound so
I think-
stupid. Vanguard is the front, right?
yeah, I think the tip of the spear.
Yeah. We're going to be the vanguard of talking about.
I mean, aren't we there?
Yeah, we.
I think
we should start talking about it. So
Does
when
anybody
when
even-
it happens?
can you
we
even-
can be soothsayers.
Can you even get a Common Core hater mad about Common Core anymore?
No, they don't even care.
And they don't care. I think it's in its death throes across the country. I
Wow.
don't think even people talk about it anymore. So I think at some point we need to.
Yeah.
There's a decade here of ed policy that really began with the development of Common Core and the Obama administration and Race to the Top that now I think is
on its
going
way out.
going out with a whimper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's
as
do
one
a
of-
segment on that.
One of my substitutes back in the day called it the Communist Core.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I actually, if anybody out there can provide us with a synopsis,
Developed by chambers of commerce across the country.
yeah, right.
totally grassroots movement. is one thing that policy-wise that has been a bunch in the news has to do with the repealing of some Obama-era regulations regarding sexual misconduct at colleges and universities.
Yeah.
And something about the rights of the accused versus the accuser.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
in general, I know that they want to give more rights to the accused, but I have I've not really done any reading or research on it. So if somebody could just summarize that for us and just tell us what to think.
That'd be helpful.
I think it's a great topic too, because I think after the Kavanaugh hearings, I think there's there is a window to talk about sexual assault and substance abuse in with teens in schools.
Yeah.
That would be ripe,
Yeah. A lot of opportunities.
Yeah, for us.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that does it, boys. Crable's checking the clock.
Yeah,
That usually is the signal that we are done.
Yeah.
All right. So, folks, thanks for tuning in. As always, send show feedback to any of the three of us at rw. at Peter Crable, at CH Siddons, or, of course, at Ed's Not Dead PC. You can find us on Facebook. At Ed's Not Dead Facebook.
backslash
http://
That's all I could come up with.
edsnotdead.com.
Come on, man.
Yeah, Ed's Not Dead. I was doing great, and then I just ran out of steam. And spread the word about the show, boys. Last words.
It's been fun. It's
Great-
been real.
great
It has
times.
been real fun.
All right. When we come back next episode, we will have moved Mr. Crable through his midlife crisis.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll be in my 50s. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, folks.